Hi, this is Phil Collen.
Hi, this is Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, and you are watching Heavy Consequence.
So the first question I have is, how is the creation of Diamond Star Halos different or similar to previous Def Leppard albums?
It's massively different. It was going to start off the same way that we've always done everything, because up until lockdown, the pandemic, that's what life was. You just did what you did. And what we always did was, when we were deciding to record, or if we thought we had material to record, we'd discuss how much we had, we'd figure out what we wanted to do, and then we would probably, 9 times out of 10, come to my studio in Dublin, because it's convenient. You know, they don't even really have to bring anything other than a toothbrush, because I've got a set of Phil's guitars and a set of Vivian guitars, so everything's all kind of ready to go. But the day that everybody was due to fly in, the lockdown was introduced. So it was a case of circling the wagons, cancelling the flights. And then me and Phil got on the phone for about 30, 40 minutes and bashed out, okay, what do we do now? Because truth is, March of 2020 was 3 months before the tour was due to start. So no matter what we got on with, it was never going to be an album. It was going to be 3 or 4 songs that we would sit on over the summer and work on the rest after the tour finished. Because nobody knew how long lockdown was going to last. You know, it could have been a week or a month, or, as it turns out, best part of 2 years. So we kind of rapidly came up with this whole new plan of recording remotely, because in the 40 minutes that me and Phil spoke, we'd figured out that he'd co-written 2, that weren't even planned for a Def Leppard record, but he'd just written them anyway. So I'd written 3, and there was an old song of Phil's that I'd been dying for us to do. So I threw that into the pile. And I think because it was so uniquely different and like, okay, this is kind of exciting, really, that we've opened up all our avenues of exploration, if you like, and anything was open. It was a total, put it on the table and we'll make it work. So there was no peer pressure of, you know, when 5 guys are in a room together and you go, I've got an idea, you're always aware of the fact that everybody else is kind of focusing in on what you've just said, and it better be damn good. But with doing it this way, there was, all the pressure was off, because it didn't matter whether it was a success or a failure. We were just going to try to do something that we'd dabbled in the past, which is remote recording, but we'd never gone 100% full on into making what turned out to be an album, because as lockdown kept getting moved from the week to the month to 2 months to 3 months, and we obviously figured out that the tour was not going to happen, we were just constantly in contact with each other, literally 3, 4, 5 times a day, more than we would have been if we'd have probably been in the same building. Yeah. And we just figured, well, we've got these songs, and that initial 7, once Sav got brought into the equation, became 9. And we thought, okay, well, we're really on a good roll here. And as the album progressed, the recording sessions progressed, me and Phil, we wrote 5 completely remotely, not even this technology. We never used Zoom once, did we? We used the phone, we sent MP3s as emails. And the most intriguing and important part of the whole process was Ronan McHugh, our engineer, co-producer. He's got his own little studio. And once we brought him into the equation and said, look, this is how we're planning on doing it, he literally just said, piece of piss, easy, no problem. He's got his own studio. He built a session for, 2020 sessions or whatever it was called at the time. And literally, as he got each song demo, he would build a session and we would send everything to him and he would glue it all together. And
what I think, especially that with Ronan, the energy conservation, like usually when you record a band, especially for him, he has to wait around, and it just takes so much energy to deal with different musicians, different ideas and everything, different kind of emotions or whatever. With this one, you didn't have to do that. It's like it was inspiring. Me and Joe was so inspired sending these ideas. I'd send him something in the morning, my morning or my evening. my morning, it would be his evening. The next morning I'd wake up and he had got this whole song finished that I'd started the day, and we kept doing that. It was just the most inspiring way we've ever worked. And then you put Ronan into it and you take out all of that donkey work and waiting around and all that stuff. He's just getting inspired stuff sent to him and he's just creating this thing. So all round, it was just total inspiration, and we'd never would have had that. Would have been sitting in the studio. Like, there was one thing, Sav played acoustic 12-string guitar on the song This Guitar, and his fingers were bleeding. Like, so normally we'd all be waiting around for him and he's like, oh, my fingers are, I can't play bass and that. But in the meantime, we didn't even know that was happening, because, you know, I was doing guitars, Joe's doing vocals. We would send them in and no one actually saw Sav's fingers bleeding except for him. So my point is, you know, everyone would put their 100% in, and it would be a collective. It's almost like some spiritual thing just floating into this place, and it would just get finished that way. So the whole thing was all based on inspiration, and none of the flow being stopped by waiting around or whatever that would happen in the physical universe, you know?
And let's not forget as well, I mean, it's great that I've got my own studio. It's been a boon for us for years. You know, you haven't got to worry about the clock going around or you're paying, how much it costs. But at the same time, and as much fun as it is always having the guys over, whenever I'm singing and they're waiting for me to finish so we can get on with the next song, they're sitting around in my house, which is not really the greatest thing in the world for them when you compare it now, which we've never been able to do before, to sitting around in their own house and getting on with spending time with their kids or spending time renovating or whatever people did in lockdown. You were at home. So as Phil says, the energy saving factor was enormous, because genuinely it became like a hobby. Phil would send me an MP3. Let's say that the greatest example for the entire record really is the song Open Your Eyes. He sent me this like a 1:10 riff. He said, I've been out and bought a bass, and he was messing with the bass and he came up with a bass lick. Then he put some guitars over that, and that's pretty much all it was at the time. So I woke up to this. He was asleep. I'm listening to it going, yeah, there's something there, but I need a verse thing. So I sent him an email back. Can you jangle those chords instead of just blaring them out really loud? So he did, and he came up with this fantastic jangle. I mean, it's just beautiful, which is the verses. And then the heavy part became like the chorus, if you like. So me and Ronan spoke while he was asleep, glued it together. Then when it got to the end of the second chorus, I had this epiphany of a middle eight. So I got my phone out and hit my voice memo recorder and played the chords on an acoustic guitar, made sure that they worked. I then sent that recording to Ronan, who, again, Phil's still asleep. I said, Ronan, cut a 16-bar block into the song after the second chorus and put these chords in. So he programmed a bass. He played some rough guitars, sent it back to me within the hour. I sang my bits over the top, sent them back to Ronan to edit into the file. Then we had this rough demo of the song, which then goes to Phil. He wakes up to it, and it's pretty much a complete song minus his solos, if it got the approval of a, you know, as a song, you know, all the parts.
And this only took 2 days, by the way. This whole process is 2 days while we're doing other shit as well, you know, like our kids going to the swimming pool, hanging out, whatever, you know, just having a normal life. So it was inspiring. It's just
totally. And while we were working on that song, Sav is possibly playing the bass or the 12-string, fingers bleeding, on this guitar in Sheffield. Me and Phil are conversing back and forth between Dublin and California. That's how it initially started. Vivian's in New England. He's possibly doing guitars on one of the other songs. And they just all bit by bit come into Ronan, who's basically the postmaster. He's the guy that has to juggle all the mail and go, okay, which one am I going to do today? We just get on with it. And then once Ronan pieces a song together, sends it out to all four of us in this awesome program called Bounce Boss, where each song is its own file. You click on it, you play it. It saves every mix so you can compare mixes and flick between them on the fly. So You don't have to rewind back to the beginning or click back to the beginning. And then when you make your comments, Bounce Boss sends an email out to everybody in the band, say Phil's made a comment, Joe's made a comment, and everybody just clicks on that and reads the comment. And it's not like, okay, well, I've got a great idea for a backing vocal on that section. Great, go for it. There was no committee meetings. Oh, let's hear it then. It was like, get on with it. And then we'd hear it. And every time it's like, that's it. We know each other that well. We knew what would work. So we'll never go back to recording the traditional way ever again, because it's so much more fun to do this. It was liberating, absolutely liberating.
Right. Okay. And if you wouldn't mind discussing the first single, Kick, as well.
Yeah, Kick was the last song to come in. I actually was writing with some other guys. That one was with Dave Bassett. And we were I'm always trying to write a classic stadium anthem, in the We Will Rock You, I Love Rock and Roll kind of vibe. And they're the hardest songs to write because, you need integrity and you need vibe when you do something like that. And a lot of the time they just sound, fake and just nonsense. So that was it. And I kind of based it on a kind of a Slade, Gary Glitter, T-Rex, Mott the Hoople type thing. That was the thing, the kind of reference. So I had a drum pattern that I kind of programmed in this kind of BPM structure, and then I was just playing riffs over the top of it, and then that riff come, and then I had a basic idea for the kick thing, and we said to Dave, yeah, it's got to be like that, and all of a sudden he started flowing like me and Joe do. We had a similar thing going. And he come with this great riff for the intro that sounded like Eddie Cochran that I would never have played. And it started turning into this thing. And it was going to be for someone else. And I played it to Joe and he said, are you insane? This is a Def Leppard song. We have to do this. He said, play it to the other guys just to make sure. And they got back. Sav got back immediately, said, Sugar, anyone? Because Pour Some Sugar on Me was the last track we did for Hysteria. And we essentially finished the album. And Joe had come up with Pour Some Sugar on Me. And that got recorded in 10 days. So we done this one fairly quick as well. Everyone started putting their parts on Kick. And it absolutely is a Def Leppard song.
Absolutely, it is. And for the first time I heard it, I thought, I can't wait to have a go at this. I don't give a hoot really who writes the lyrics. It's when you've grown up watching Roger Daltrey or Freddie Mercury readily accept other people's lyrics to sing, it's never been an issue for me. I sing Phil's lyrics all the time, all the way through since he first started writing with us. It's the best idea always wins. But the fact that it was, the album was finished as far as we were concerned. So Phil went back to just writing with other guys for fun, see what, who knows who that song might have ended up with in a different universe, But because it was open-ended, we were still in lockdown, there was still no delivery scheduled for this album. We actually did. Me, Phil, and Dave sat down and wrote another one.
We actually finished that off, but we haven't recorded it.
We just haven't got around to doing it yet because we realized that with the 8-month delivery time for vinyl, we had to impose a cutoff for ourselves at least. So we said, save it. It'll be fine. I mean, that song was written in 2021. That's yet to come out. It'll come out whenever. This Guitar, which is a song that Phil wrote with his mate CJ in 2003, was at the time 17 years old. He's now 19 years old. This is the one that I've been begging Phil for since I first heard it. Something has to be done with this song, whether it's us or whether you give it a country artist or whatever. This song is too good to sit around gathering cobwebs. So the fact that we've got this, a couple of other ideas, in fact, there's a second one, not even close to being half finished, on the go. So we just really embrace this way of writing. It's Phil will send me an idea and say, have you got anything for this? He's not expecting an answer now. You live with it. And then when something pops into your head, you come up with it. The Brill building idea of writing a song between 9 and 5, I find an astonishing thing to be able to do, because at 4 o'clock, your Neil Sedakis or your Carole Kings are going, fuck, I haven't got a chorus. and then they have to just bodge anything to get it done. And we don't do that. We wait until the inspiration hits, and then you pull it out the sky and fit it in. And, it's a beautiful way to work. So now the fact that this guitar was sitting around for so long, just waiting for its opportunity. And this was the perfect project for it, because I've no doubt that I've suggested halfway through Sparkle Lounge or halfway through the Def Leppard album, hey, what about this guitar? But with 6-7 songs in, and you listen to the demo and go, it's not going to work. But when we're starting from scratch with this totally different headspace, as we did on this record, anything goes. For example, a ukulele on one of Phil's songs, 2 of my songs written on a piano. This would have not got through the filter 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So we broadened our horizons, and it worked massively in our favor. It's a shame it took something like, lockdown to do it, but better late than never. And I just think that part of your journey is these things happen when they're supposed to. So maybe this just was the right time. Me and Phil are huge fans of Mike Garson. I'd been working with Mike for 4 years on and off, doing a bunch of Bowie tributes. So he was kind of in the orbit, if you like. And after my demos were presented and my piano playing was rather rudimentary, I suggested to Phil having, because he's right in the forefront of my mind, what about Garson? And he was like, yeah, because we're both huge fans of Aladdin Sane, which is where we discovered it. And so to have Mike on board is something, again, we might not have done, but it was absolutely the right thing to do now. And the same thing when we brought Alison Krauss in, because, again, huge fan, been around in our little world on and off for 30 years, and about bloody time, So we were very open-minded to everything that happened.
Okay. And are you both excited about the stadium tour upcoming, and also that it's finally going to be launched?
We've been excited, obviously, for like 2 years. It's like, here we go. This is great. And it's like the biggest tour of our career we were just about to embark on. And then it was like, not so fast. It was one of those, a rug getting pulled away. So yeah, we're absolutely. And we know more now than we did then. I mean, it's all about kind of, increasing the weapons in your arsenal. And we actually know a lot more about performing, artistry, songwriting, everything. So yeah, this is going to be really good. I think just the vibe of the band, everything, you kind of aspire to be something else. Like Queen has always been an aspiration for us, and we've always used them as a blueprint. So even like what Joe was just saying about the songwriting, Queen were perfect. You'd have Brian May write We Will Rock You. Freddie would come in with Bohemian Rhapsody. John Deacon would write another one, Bites the Dust. And Roger Taylor, Radio Gaga. But they're all very much Queen. And they sound very much like Queen, but they're just coming from different kind of elements and stuff. So we're very proud and pleased we're actually getting to that stage in our career. Most bands never get anywhere near that. They break up before, or they just run out of steam. We are so enthused and fired up about everything we're doing that based on the creativity and the artistry part of it, the performing part's always been a no-brainer for us. It's why we got in a band in the first place, was to play live. So that's going to be fascinating, especially a stadium backdrop where we get to do all this live. It's amazing.
And the advantage as well now in 2022 over last year or the year before is that we can play some new music, which we wouldn't have been able to do in 2020. It would have been fine because that's what the tour was set out to be, like a kind of not a greatest hits tour as such, but I hate to say a trip down memory lane, but your legacy, your back catalogue, all the songs that people want to hear in a stadium. It's not the environment. And if you want to play 12 new songs, you need to be in an open mic night in a basement somewhere. It's not really what McCartney or the Stones or anybody with a brain would do in a stadium. But we can introduce some of the new songs into this tour, which we couldn't have done before. So in that respect, it's been an advantage for us that this tour got delayed for 2 years. Obviously, under the backdrop of a terrible situation for the world, people dying all over the place and getting sick. But, all we could do was to ride it out. And the best thing we could do was to stay as safe as possible and stay as remote as possible and not waste our time. which is exactly what we did. We didn't waste our time. We did stay safe. We stayed remote. We stayed in touch. Me and Phil spoke more in those 7, 8, 9, 10 months that we were recording this record, and since, speaking on a daily, every other day basis, than we did when we were in the same room.
That's true, yeah.
Now, you kind of take each other for granted. You sit around just nodding and whatever. But we were just, as Phil says, it's the enthusiasm that's not gone. You find a lot of our peers have given up on the idea of new music, or they've accepted their fate. And we shook it up 17, 18 years ago and said, this is not good enough. We've got to do something about it, And we find ourselves now in this fantastic position where literally the world is our oyster. It's totally up to us to not screw it up, and we've got all the tools in place. We know each other so well. We've got a great legacy collection of songs. We've got a brilliant new album, and we know how to entertain a stadium audience because we've done it before. So, I mean, it's just a joy to be in that situation, and it's something we're really, really looking forward to.